My beloved child, I know you are tired, not the kind of tired sleep can fix, the kind of tiredness that settles deep inside the soul after fighting invisible battles for too long, the kind of exhaustion that comes from carrying hope while also carrying fear. Because part of you senses something is changing, but another part of you feels overwhelmed by how heavy this season has become. And lately, haven't you wondered why the pressure suddenly increased? Why emotions became more intense? Why discouragement grew louder right when you thought breakthrough was finally near? Listen carefully now, because this next part explains everything. The Holy Bible says in James 1:12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial." My beloved, the pressure you feel is proof the transition is close. The enemy fights hardest when it realizes it is losing access to a soul. That is why this season became so emotionally intense. Not because you are abandoned, not because you failed, but because darkness senses movement before you fully see it. Stay with me now, because this next revelation may completely change how you interpret your current battle. Many people quit right before breakthrough, not because they are weak, but because the final stage of transformation often feels the heaviest. The enemy wants exhausted souls to surrender one step before freedom arrives. That is why lately your mind feels pulled in opposite directions. One part of you feels hope returning. Another part feels fear screaming louder than ever. One moment you feel strong. The next moment you feel emotionally drained again. One day you believe healing is possible. The next day, hopelessness tries to return. This internal conflict is not proof you are failing. It is evidence transition is happening. My beloved child, before a season changes, pressure often increases, not to destroy you, to reveal what still tries to control you. Fear surfaces, doubt surfaces, attachment surfaces, old wounds surface, and suddenly, everything feels heavier than before. You wondered why. But what if this final pressure is exposing the last chains heaven is preparing to break? This next part matters deeply. The enemy knows your breakthrough cannot be permanently stopped. So instead, darkness tries to exhaust you emotionally before you fully step into it. That is why discouragement intensified. That is why confusion returned unexpectedly. That is why some relationships suddenly became more draining. That is why overthinking increased at night, because fear wants you to retreat back into survival mode before your new season fully begins. But my beloved, do not mistake resistance for failure. Resistance often means movement is already happening. Think carefully. When have attacks become strongest? Usually right after moments of growth, right after moments of clarity. Right after moments where you almost felt peace returning. Because darkness attacks most aggressively where breakthrough is nearest. And whether you realize it or not, you are closer than you have ever been before. Closer to healing, closer to freedom, closer to clarity. Closer to becoming the version of yourself you prayed to become during your darkest nights. That is why the pressure feels so personal now. Because the old version of you is fighting to survive, while the new version of you is trying to emerge. And transformation always creates tension before peace. My beloved child, you keep asking why this season became so emotionally exhausting. But what if heaven allowed the pressure to reveal how strong you have actually become? Years ago, this battle would have destroyed you completely. Years ago, you would have surrendered to hopelessness much sooner. Years ago, you would have accepted emotional survival as your permanent reality. But look at yourself now. You are still here, still seeking peace, still listening, still fighting for your spirit even while exhausted. That matters more than you know. Heaven sees every private battle nobody else understands. Every moment you resisted giving up, every silent prayer spoken through tears, every time you chose faith while fear screamed against your future. My beloved, perseverance is not loud. Sometimes perseverance looks like simply surviving one more difficult day, without surrendering your spirit completely to darkness. And you have done that more times than you realize. This next part explains why the enemy fears your endurance so much. Because enduring souls eventually become transformed souls. Pain changes people, but perseverance changes identity. Every battle you survived built discernment inside you, built wisdom inside you, built spiritual strength inside you. And although the process felt brutal at times, you are no longer the same person who entered this season. Fear no longer controls you the same way. People's opinions no longer hold the same authority over your spirit. You recognize manipulation faster now. You protect your peace more deeply now. You hear my voice more clearly now. That transformation came through endurance. And the enemy knows once you fully recognize how much you have grown, the chains of hopelessness begin breaking permanently. That is why darkness wants you emotionally distracted from your progress. It wants you focused only on how far you still need to go, instead of realizing how far you already came. My beloved child, pause for a moment and remember who you used to be. Remember how broken your spirit once felt. Remember how hopeless certain nights became. Remember how many times you secretly thought you would never recover emotionally. Yet somehow you survived. Not perfectly, not without scars, but you survived. And the fact that you are still here listening to these words right now means heaven has not released you from its hands. This next part matters deeply. Do not allow temporary pressure to make permanent decisions for your future, because the final stage before breakthrough often feels confusing. You may feel emotionally stretched between two realities, the old season collapsing, the new season approaching, one part of your life ending, another part quietly beginning. And standing in the middle of transition feels uncomfortable, because uncertainty tests trust. But my beloved, trust is exactly what this season has been building inside you. Not shallow faith based only on visible blessings, but deeper faith. Faith that survives silence, faith that survives disappointment, faith that continues breathing even while waiting. That kind of faith changes lives. That kind of faith breaks cycles. That kind of faith carries power into future generations. And heaven has been building that kind of strength inside you quietly this entire time. If you are still standing after everything you survived, type "I will not quit" in the comments right now. Declare it boldly. And if someone you love is fighting silent battles they rarely speak about, share this message with them. Because another soul needs to hear that pressure is not proof of failure. Sometimes it is proof transition is close. My beloved child, there is one final truth you must hear before this part ends. The breakthrough you are waiting for is not only external. Yes, doors will open. Yes, peace will increase. Yes, healing will continue unfolding. But the greatest miracle may be the person you are becoming through this process. Stronger, wiser, more discerning, more spiritually awake, more emotionally free than before. One day you will look back at this season and realize the pressure was not there to destroy you. It was there to prepare you, to strengthen your spirit for the life ahead, to reveal how much growth already happened inside you, and to teach you something fear never wanted you to learn. You are far stronger than the darkness that tried to break you. So hold on a little longer now. Do not surrender during the final test. Do not retreat back into hopelessness. Do not abandon yourself when heaven is closest to opening the next door. Because, my beloved child, the pressure you feel is proof the transition is close. My beloved child, something inside you has changed forever. Even if your outer life has not fully caught up yet, your spirit knows it. You feel it in the way certain things no longer satisfy you. You feel it in the way your heart reacts differently now. You feel it in the quiet distance growing between you and the person you used to be. And part of you still struggles to explain it, because the transformation happened slowly, quietly, painfully. not in one dramatic moment, but through countless hidden battles nobody else fully saw. This next part matters deeply. You are not becoming who you were before. You cannot go back, because the version of you that entered this season did not survive it unchanged. The Holy Bible says in Isaiah 61:3, to give unto them beauty for ashes. My beloved, you survived what was supposed to destroy you, and surviving it changed you. The pain changed you. The waiting changed you. The betrayal changed you. The silence changed you. The isolation changed you, but not in the way darkness intended. The enemy wanted suffering to harden your spirit permanently, wanted fear to close your heart forever, wanted disappointment to convince you that your future carried no purpose. But instead, something unexpected happened. You awakened. Stay with me now, because what I am about to reveal explains why your soul feels so different lately. The old version of you lived mostly in survival mode, trying to avoid pain, trying to keep everyone happy, trying to hold yourself together emotionally while quietly breaking inside. You learned how to suppress your feelings, how to smile through exhaustion, how to carry burdens silently because you feared becoming too much for others. But my beloved child, that version of you was never the fullness of who I created you to be. It was a wounded version, a surviving version, a fearful version. And this season forced that version to break apart, not because I wanted to destroy you, but because I wanted to reveal you, the real you, the healed you, the awakened you, the version of you no longer controlled by fear, people-pleasing, emotional dependency, or hidden shame. That is why lately you feel emotionally disconnected from your old self, because your spirit is evolving beyond the identity built through pain. This next part matters deeply. Transformation often feels uncomfortable because growth requires grieving, and part of you is grieving who you used to be. The version that tolerated less than you deserved. The version that stayed silent when your spirit was hurting. The version that accepted emotional crumbs because you feared abandonment. The version that doubted your worth constantly. You carried that identity for so long that losing it almost feels unfamiliar. But hear me carefully now. You are not losing yourself. You are finding yourself beneath the wounds. My beloved, one of the hardest parts of awakening is realizing how long you lived disconnected from your true identity. You spent years seeing yourself through the eyes of pain, through rejection, through criticism, through failure, through survival, and slowly, those experiences became the mirror through which you viewed your entire life. But those experiences were never your identity. They were chapters, not your name. This season has been breaking the false identity fear built around your spirit. That is why old patterns feel uncomfortable now. That is why your tolerance for unhealthy environments keeps decreasing. That is why certain conversations exhaust you more deeply now. Your soul recognizes it cannot return to emotional blindness anymore. Awakening changed you permanently, and yes, that realization feels lonely sometimes. Because once your eyes open spiritually, you cannot comfortably return to who you used to be. You cannot unknow what your spirit now recognizes. You cannot continue abandoning yourself for temporary acceptance. You cannot continue pretending chaos feels normal. And although this transformation cost you comfort, it gave you clarity. This next revelation explains why the enemy fought your growth so aggressively. Because identity determines direction. People who believe they are worthless live differently than people who know they are chosen. People who believe they deserve pain tolerate things heaven never intended for them. People who see themselves through fear make decisions rooted in survival instead of purpose. That is why darkness attacked your identity for so many years. Not because the enemy feared who you were, but because it feared who you would become once you finally awakened. And my beloved child, that awakening has already begun. You are beginning to recognize your worth differently now, beginning to recognize your discernment differently, beginning to understand why your spirit always felt restless inside environments that diminished your peace. You were not difficult, you were awakening. The old version of you begged to be chosen. The new version of you understands you were already chosen by heaven long ago. The old version of you feared being alone. The new version of you values peace more than unhealthy attachment. The old version of you questioned whether your life mattered. The new version of you senses purpose growing even through pain. That is transformation, quiet, deep, irreversible transformation. My beloved, do you know why this season became so emotionally painful? Because rebirth always requires surrendering an old identity first, and surrender feels like dying before it feels like freedom. That is why some days felt confusing. Part of you wanted healing, another part feared change. Part of you wanted peace. Another part still clung to familiar pain because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty sometimes. But slowly, through every battle, every tear, every disappointment, every lonely night, your spirit kept evolving, and now you are standing between who you were and who you are becoming. This next part matters deeply. Do not fear the fact that you no longer fit where you once belonged. That discomfort is confirmation. You are evolving beyond old limitations, beyond old wounds, beyond old mentalities, beyond old fears. The version of you emerging now carries deeper wisdom, deeper discernment, deeper peace. And although your journey is not finished, you are no longer emotionally trapped in the same darkness you once lived inside. That matters more than you realize. My beloved child, there was a time you thought pain would define your entire future. A time you thought healing would never fully happen. A time you believed you would always feel emotionally broken. But look at yourself now. You survived, not perfectly, not without scars. But you survived what was supposed to destroy you, and surviving transformed you. If you can feel your spirit changing, even while your outer world is still catching up, type, "I am not who I used to be," in the comments right now. Declare it boldly. And if someone you love is struggling to believe healing is possible, after everything they survived, share this message with them, because another soul needs to know transformation is already happening inside them too. My beloved, one day you will look back at this season with different eyes. You will see how every painful moment carried purpose, how every battle revealed hidden strength, how every loss created room for awakening, and how the ashes of your old life became the ground where new identity finally emerged. The fearful version of you is fading. The wounded version of you is healing. The awakened version of you is rising. And there is no returning now, because once heaven reveals who you truly are, the old identity can no longer contain your spirit. So do not mourn the old version of yourself forever. Honor how hard they fought to survive. But understand this, you were never meant only to survive. You were meant to awaken. And my beloved child, your new identity is finally emerging. My beloved child, before this message ends, I need you to understand something deeply. You were not brought here accidentally, not tonight, not by coincidence, not because some random video appeared on your screen at the perfect moment. No, your spirit was searching for confirmation long before your mind understood what it needed. And this message was heaven answering that cry. The Holy Bible says in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." My beloved, read that carefully. A future, not an ending, not permanent suffering, not endless confusion, not a lifetime trapped in fear, a future. And the reason these words are touching something so deeply inside you right now is because part of your spirit already recognizes the truth. You are standing at the edge of a new beginning. This next part matters deeply. You thought this message came only to comfort you, to calm you. to help you survive another difficult night. But my beloved child, this was never only about comfort. This was activation, because there comes a moment in every soul's journey where heaven stops whispering softly and starts awakening them intentionally. This is that moment for you. You have spent too many years doubting yourself, too many years shrinking your spirit to fit environments that never truly honored your peace, too many years surviving emotionally while pretending everything was okay, too many years believing your wounds were your identity. But now, something inside you is waking up, and once awakening begins, life cannot continue the same way. Stay with me now, because what you felt during this message was not imaginary. That heaviness lifting from your chest, that sudden emotion rising unexpectedly, that quiet feeling inside you saying, "This is for me." That was your spirit responding to truth, because truth does something fear cannot do. It awakens what pain tried to bury. My beloved, throughout this entire journey, I have been showing you something piece by piece. The isolation had purpose, the betrayal had purpose, the silence had purpose, the pressure had purpose. Even the battles inside your mind revealed something important. You survived what should have destroyed you, and surviving changed you. You are not the same person who entered this season. The fearful version of you is fading. The exhausted version of you is healing. The spiritually asleep version of you is awakening. And now, your next season is beginning to call your name. This next part matters deeply. Do not ignore what you felt during this message, because your spirit recognizes movement before your eyes see evidence. That deep emotional reaction you experienced was confirmation. Confirmation that heaven has been speaking to you long before this moment. Confirmation that your life is not over. Confirmation that your future still carries purpose. Confirmation that your pain was never meaningless. And confirmation that your breakthrough already began internally before becoming visible externally. My beloved child, one of the greatest lies darkness ever whispered to you was this: nothing will ever change. But look at yourself carefully now. You are already changing. Your thinking changed. Your discernment changed. Your boundaries changed. Your spirit changed. The things you tolerate changed. The way you see yourself changed. That transformation did not happen accidentally. It happened because heaven never stopped working on your soul. Even during silence, even during heartbreak, even during confusion, even during the nights you secretly thought you would never feel whole again, I never stopped rebuilding you. And now the version of you emerging from this season carries wisdom your old self never possessed. You have become more aware, more spiritually awake, more emotionally honest, more connected to peace, more connected to truth. And although your journey is not finished, you are no longer lost in the same darkness you once believed would consume you forever. This next revelation explains why you had to hear this message today, because the next chapter of your life will require courage. Not fear, faith, not emotional survival, movement, not retreat. And heaven needed to remind you who you are before the next door fully opens. You are not weak, you are not forgotten, you are not cursed, you are not permanently broken. You are someone heaven continued protecting, even while you were struggling to protect yourself emotionally. You are someone heaven continued guiding, even while confusion surrounded your path. You are someone heaven refused to abandon, even when you almost abandoned yourself. That is how deeply you are loved. My beloved child, there are still moments ahead that will test your faith. Moments where fear will try speaking again. Moments where old thoughts may try returning. Moments where waiting may still feel difficult. But now you know something you did not fully understand before. The battle was never proof that heaven left you. The battle was proof your spirit carried purpose. And purpose always attracts resistance before revelation. That is why you must protect your peace now more than ever. Protect your mind, protect your spirit, Protect the healing beginning inside you, because not everyone will understand the transformation happening within you. Some people only recognize the old version of you, the wounded version, the quiet version, the people-pleasing version. But my beloved, that version is fading, and although awakening may feel lonely sometimes, it leads to freedom. This next part matters deeply. One day you will look back at this exact season with tears in your eyes, not because it was easy, but because you will finally understand why everything had to happen the way it did. You will understand why certain doors closed, why certain people left, why silence became necessary, why the pressure increased, why your spirit kept feeling restless. Because heaven was never punishing you. Heaven was preparing you, preparing your spirit for peace, preparing your mind for clarity, preparing your heart for healthier love, preparing your future for the version of you finally learning your worth. And when that understanding fully reaches your spirit, everything changes. My beloved child, this is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your awakening, the beginning of your healing, the beginning of your restoration, the beginning of your new season. And although fear may still try speaking, your spirit now knows the truth. You are being guided, you are being protected, you are being transformed, and your future is still alive. So before this message ends, take a deep breath. Release the hopelessness. Release the fear. Release the belief that your life will always feel this heavy. And hear my voice clearly one final time. You made it through the darkness. You survived the season that almost broke you. And what comes next will not look like what you survived. If this message touched your spirit deeply, type Amen in the comments below. Subscribe and stay connected, because heaven is not finished speaking to your life. And share this message with someone who feels lost, exhausted, or forgotten right now, because another soul needs this confirmation before they give up on themselves completely. But above all else, do not ignore what you felt during this message. Because, my beloved child, that feeling was heaven reminding you that your story is still unfolding,